Hello everyone and welcome to the remaining match of the FIDE World Cup 2025. It is the match for third place, but also maybe even more important one than the match for first place that Sindarov and Wei are battling out, because the winner of this match also qualifies for the FIDE Candidates Tournament 2026. Andrey Esipenko versus Nodirbek Yakubboev. Both of them have played an incredible event. Esipenko yesterday had that heartbreaking loss against Wei where he blundered a full rook. Wei attacked it. Esipenko, had a weird moment. He just moved the pawn on the other side of the board. Wei grabbed a full rook, and Esipenko was eliminated from the FIDE World Cup. Not completely. He still plays for the third place, and he's still able to qualify. But yeah, that was a very, very tough loss. Now he faces Nodirbek Yakubboev, the other strong Uzbekistan player. Let's check it out. It's quite an interesting game. So Esipenko with white opens with pawn to e4. We have pawn to c5. The Sicilian defense is on the board. Knight f3, knight to c6, and pawn to d4. The standard open Sicilian. We have c captures. We have knight captures and knight to f6. We have knight to c3 and pawn to e6. The four knights of the Sicilian. We have knight captures and c6, b captures and pawn to e5. So all standard theory, nothing new being discussed here. 95, 94. Queen c7 most popular here. Yakubboev goes for bishop to b7. And now again, bishop to e2 is most popular. Here we have bishop to d3. And the first think of the game for Nodirbek, he goes queen to c5, spent some 17 minutes on this move. We have pawn to f4, and now knight to b4, challenging the bishop. And you can move the bishop if you don't want to give it up. You can keep it there. For example, Fabiano Caruana in the FIDE Grand Swiss of 2021 played castles here against Ivan Šarić. That game ended in a draw. But here, yeah, just bishop back to e2, not allowing black to win the bishop pair. We have pawn to c5. Seems like a bit of a weird move, but you do want to open up your dark square bishop and also free up that c6 square for the knight if the knight gets attacked. Bishop to f3, countering the bishop. And now, again, there are some games where c4 was played. Rook to d8 is a known move. We have bishop to d5. And this is the second real thing of the game for Nodirbek, again investing some 15 minutes here, and it is now as of move 12 that we have a completely new game. So generally this is not a kind of position you want to be in, where you enter new territory by never seeing it before, but it is what it is. And Esipenko still with full hour and 30 on the clock. Castles king side. Okay, we have bishop to e7, pawn to c3, chasing away the knight, knight c6, and bishop to e3. Castles kingside and knight to g3. Esipenko offers a trade of light square bishops, and Nodirbek obliges. We have captures, and now you could maybe even strike with pawn to f5, because if captures on f6 en passant, you do get your bishop to this diagonal, but he goes pawn to d5. He says, I prefer this diagonal. And okay, we have e captures on d6 now en passant, bishop captures, and pawn to f5, trying to create some sort of an attack against the black king. Bishop captures on g3, as that knight is would be a monster knight if it ever landed on f5. So just bishop captures on g3, queen captures, and the queens come off the board. Queen captures, h captures, and pawn to c4. We have f captures on e6, f captures, rook captures on f8 with check, rook captures, and now rook to d1. This is very, very important. If you're not fast enough, 95, knight d3, and white could really have problems. This way you're threatening rook to d6, maybe even rook to d7 in some lines. So, you have to be careful. And while the b2 pawn is a backwards pawn, it's not easy to start gobbling things up before white does. Rook to b8 by Nodirbek going after the b2 pawn, but rook to d6 comes with tempo. The knight on c6 is hanging. We have knight to e5 and rook captures on e6. We have knight g4 attacking the bishop, but bishop back to c1. And okay, Esipenko is now up a pawn, but he does have a double g pawn. So overall the position is roughly equal. Rook back to d8, threatening rook d1 to win the bishop on c1, king to f1. Now if rook to d1, you can simply prevent it with rook to e1. We have king to f7. Nodirbek also gets the king into the game. Rook back to e2 and rook to d5. Okay, king to e1. We have knight to e5 and pawn to b3, trying to get rid of that c-pawn, and if black captures, then okay, you're very happy. A captures on b3. And you should just play a6 and wait for white to make a move, because if you ever go pawn to b4, which is usually great, here it wouldn't be so great, because knight d3 check either wins the bishop, or you have to get the king closer, and now you don't go after the rook, but rather you go knight captures on b4 with check, because if knight to f4 check, you don't really win the rook, just rook d2 and everything is fine. So yeah, a6 here would be the best, but knight to d3 check was played. We have king to d1, and now again, not all that many useful discoveries, as we said. If knight f4 check, just rook to d2. So pawn to h5, keeping that pawn on g3, bishop to d2. Now the king is ready to move. We have rook to a5, going after the a2 pawn, and Esipenko's position is now winning. And the problem for Nodirbek is that it's not a very difficult move to find, but it is possible to miss it. So what would you play here? Maybe it's more difficult than meets the eye. What would you play here? While I give you a couple of seconds. So the only move that wins the game is bishop to e3. And it's just a phenomenal move. The rook defends the pawn, the bishop attacks the a7 pawn, so the rook on a5 doesn't really have anywhere to go. If you go, let's say, something like king to f6, then even bishop to d4 is extremely annoying. You have to guard that pawn. Now not b4, b captures on c4, removing the defender of the knight, and not all that much you can do here. The knight will fall, or if you try to free up the knight, let's say knight c5, rook e5, again, there's no way to save the knight. So you just lose. Pawn to a6 is what Nodirbek tried, but now again b captures on c4. We have rook to e5 and bishop to d4, offering a trade of rooks. But if you trade rooks here, rook captures, king captures, again attacks the knight, and if knight to b2, then you start marching that pawn up the board, and there's really no way to stop everything. If king goes to deal with this pawn, this king goes king side, you gobble up all of the pawns. So play on both sides of the board. The bishop is just much stronger than a knight. So after bishop to d4, rook to g5 was played, and now comes king to c2. Finally, the knight is attacked, and we have rook captures on g3, defending that knight. But again, there's a problem. Feel free to pause the video and win the game. For Nodirbek, there's only one move that wins, so be very, very careful while I give you a couple of seconds. It's the exact same move from the previous pause the video moment. It's bishop to e3. Same move. And now there's no way for the knight to be saved. Just king captures on d3, and the next move will win the game, and that's it. It was in this position on move 38 that Nodirbek Yakubboev resigned the game, and Andrey Esipenko is a draw away from qualifying for the FIDE Candidates Tournament, which would be great for him due to that terrible loss to Wei Yi, where he blundered a full rook. But Nodirbek will not make that easy. Nodirbek gets the white pieces tomorrow, and he will give him hell, no doubt. No doubt about that. And again, if you go, let's say, knight to e5 to try to save the knight somehow, just bishop f4, and the knight cannot escape. So yeah, we have a draw in the clash for first place between Wei Yi and Sindarov, and Andrey Esipenko takes down Nodirbek Yakubboev. We'll see what happens tomorrow. 2 more games being played, 2 more games of wonderful classical chess. So we'll see if we get all of the answers tomorrow, or will it also go into tie breaks. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Big congratulations to Esipenko on this phenomenal victory. I would like to thank Michael Baisalia, Andrea Sorcinelli, Eddie Sphere, Brian Pratt, and David Gasparian for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And if you still haven't, first link in the description below. Download Lotus Chess and prepare for every game to the best of your abilities, as that is what Lotus will accomplish. See you soon.